everybody, happy month of May. Like I said, we had so many questions this month that I had to break it into 3 separate videos. So let's get crack-a-lacking into those last 3 questions. And the first question is, Katie, can you talk about how to deal with tension in the workplace? I have one colleague in particular who I'm having a very hard time dealing with. Last week she yelled at me and I was so confused and frustrated by it, I ended up crying at work. So embarrassing. But it happened, we both apologized, and I was all set to move on. But when I came to work on Monday, it was clear that she was not, since she was giving me the cold shoulder. She's been giving me the cold shoulder ever since. It has just been so awkward and uncomfortable, and it's really affecting my mood and anxiety, and I don't know what to do. Okay, so I know this happens a lot, and I've got a lot of questions about dealing with stuff in the workplace. Let me know in the comments, do you want me to do a full Monday or Thursday video about this? Because I think a lot of us struggle with issues in the workplace. We spend all our time there, right? But my advice for this would be, number 1, check out my Dear Man video. I'll link it in the description. Check it out. It's a way to kind of manage situations like this. But then the second point, so that may or may not work depending on their openness to it and their availability to even talk with you. If they're giving you a cold shoulder, you shouldn't have to hunt them down to have this conversation. The second thing is getting your boss involved. I know that sucks, but HR or your supervisor or whomever, that's part of their job, is managing these weird conflicts. And you can say, just like you said to me, you can say, she yelled at me the other day and I was very upset and I cried. I was super embarrassed, but then I thought we talked about it and we're fine, but she's been avoiding me and I just want to be able to talk about this so we can move forward. They can set up a meeting. They can act as a mediator. I know it's super uncomfortable, and even as I'm saying this, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. But trust me, it helps to have another person there. If they still start acting up, that's not on you. You've already asked your boss, you already talked to HR or talked to them and told them that you want to work it out. If they're still acting out and then, they catch them doing something else, that's on them. And that kind of protects you and removes you from that situation. You're doing all in your power to make it better, because at the end of the day, we can't control what other people do, but we can control what we do. So this is kind of a way of taking that control back, managing it, and trying to work through it the best that we know how. And also, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety and it's making a lot of your own issues worse, talk to your therapist about it and vent about it there, because that can feel good to just kind of get it out in a place where it's not work and you can't get in trouble for it, and it may help you feel a little bit better in the meantime while we try to work all that other stuff out. Okay, so let's hop into question number 2, and that is, my question's about anger management. What are some healthy ways to manage our anger, and how to differentiate whether we're just angry at a situation or whether we're enraged because of situational triggers of unresolved issues from our past that have caused us to overreact? So far, I'm only aware of the detour method, where I just avoid things, go around it. It would be nice to know other options to try besides that one. I think it's important for all of us to first understand that anger is a secondary emotion, meaning that something else happened, or we felt something else first. So something happens to us, and let's say initially for that split second, I'm actually really hurt and I want to cry about it, but it's not safe to cry, or that person hurt me so bad that I don't want them in my life anymore because it's so upsetting. And so we'll lash out with anger, meaning hurt was the first emotion. Anger is the secondary emotion. I always think that's important to keep in mind, because anger is not a first reaction like that. It's usually something else first. And so thinking we're going in reverse, right? Rewind, figure out what it was that caused that secondary emotion to present itself. What was it? Is it hurt? Is it fear? Is it frustration? What is it that has caused the anger to come out? I always think that's an important first step when we talk about anger management. And so on to the second portion of this question, she asks about some healthy ways to manage our anger. The truth about this is we have to find ways to express whatever it is. Right? It's not necessarily always anger, and people are often afraid of their anger, and so it can be really cathartic to do different art, like a collage about anger, to scream into a pillow, to listen to angry songs and jump around your house. Some way to get those anger emotions and feelings out. Otherwise, we can keep anger in, and we know that that's when we have depression, anxiety, eating disorders, self-harm injury, or self-injury issues, addiction, and all of those things. And the last portion of this question, because I want to make sure that I get it all correct, she was asking about ways to manage, like we talked about, gave all those different options, and there are tons of them. You can kick a ball into a cement wall, scream in your car, scream angry music, any kind of thing like that to kind of get it out, whatever feels good to you. But then she also asks, how do we differentiate whether we're just angry at a situation or whether the rage is from an unresolved issue from our past? The best way to do this, I call it like reality testing, is to ask a really close friend or a therapist if the anger that you feel, the amount of anger or frustration that you feel, if it is warranted by the situation. And that's why I'm saying you have to ask someone close to you who cares about you and who is there for you, because you're really wanting them to kind of weigh in on it, because we ourselves cannot tell whether our anger is warranted because we feel like it is, and we feel it so viscerally that we're not going to be able to get into our wise mind and look at the situation and think, no, you know, that person just not showing up actually doesn't warrant this level of aggression or frustration. It would look more like this. We aren't able to do it, so we're going to have to ask someone else about that. And also consider if it's brought up stuff from the past. If it makes you think they're just like so-and-so and it's always this way, then maybe that is already a sign, like, oh, little red flag. I think this is something about that happened in your past that is like exacerbated by the situation now. But those are the two kind of ways that I would be able to tell whether it's situational or it's something coming from our past. And the final question for this chunk of videos is, I was recently offered a new program starting in my area through my usual yoga center. It's a trauma-sensitive yoga workshop infused with mindfulness-based practices. It's a 3-hour workshop, so it sounds kind of intense. That does sound very intense. Physically, I'm able to do it, but I'm concerned about the possible flooding and becoming destabilized. If any of you don't know what flooding means, when we are doing trauma work, if you go too quickly through, like talking through the traumatic situation or traumatic situations, if they push you to talk about it too quickly, we can become flooded and it'll feel like it's happening all over again and we can be re-traumatized. And so it says becoming destabilized, like dissociating, not be able to stay present, could be a number of things. Having a panic attack. It says, what are your thoughts on trauma-sensitive centered yoga? What exactly is it? Does it work? Could it be destabilizing if you have severe dissociation? Now, I'm going to put out here that I'm not a yoga instructor. I don't do trauma-sensitive centered yoga. However, I have talked with Alexa about it because she has a colleague of hers who does do it. So from my understanding, it's a yoga practice that is less about the physical, like strength building parts of a regular yoga practice and more about staying present in your body and feeling it. Now, if your resiliency zone, like we've talked about in Alexa's videos, like if the zone of resiliency for you is very slim, this is not going to be helpful for you. This is something that's done in conjunction with other trauma work when we feel like your resiliency zone is much larger and you don't struggle with dissociation that often. I think it's something that can be really great for all of us, but only when we're ready. And so the way that I would know if this is actually going to work for you, because it can work, especially with my clients who struggle with a lot of body memories and just feeling energy through their bodies, like having panic attacks, dissociation, stuff like that they can feel all over. It can be really helpful because it allows us to be in our body and almost take the ownership back from the trauma. Like, this is my vessel, this is my body, and I am in control of it and I own it and I understand it and all of that. So it can really help with that. But our resiliency zone has to be really wide. I've had clients go into it too early, completely dissociate, miss out on the whole thing, not remember any of it, and then it sets us back in treatment like months back. And so just consider how easy it is for you to dissociate or how easy it is for you to stay present. If it's easy for you to pull yourself back or notice when you're becoming a little distant or a little dissociative or feeling a little overwhelmed, then you can go into child's pose, you can come back and you can try to center yourself again. But just pay attention to that and let that be your guide as to whether or not this is good for you at the time. I hope you guys found all those answers helpful. We had so many questions this month. Yay! Just like I asked, I'm always like, bring your questions. It's fun to hear what you're wondering about, and I hope that you found these helpful. And as always, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, my channel wouldn't exist anymore, and I'm so grateful for your support each and every month. You make what I do possible. I love you all so much, and I will see you next month. Bye.